Let me take you back to the day my life turned upside down, or rather, the day my driveway did. It all started with a busted water main. You know how it goes. 1 minute, everything's fine. And the next, your street looks like a scene from a disaster movie. Water gushed out of the ground like a mini fountain, flooding the cul-de-sac and turning our once pristine neighborhood into a soggy mess. My driveway was no exception. The repair crew showed up, dug up the concrete, fixed the pipe, and promised to repave everything within 2 weeks. No big deal, I thought. A little inconvenience, sure, but nothing I couldn't handle. But then came the HOA, the Almighty Homeowners Association of Willow Creek Estates. If you've ever lived in a place governed by an HOA, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These are the folks who make sure everyone's mailbox is perfectly aligned, every lawn is trimmed to regulation height, and no one dares park on the street overnight. They're the self-appointed guardians of suburban perfection, and they rule with an iron fist wrapped in velvet gloves. So imagine my surprise when I came home from work one evening to find my driveway completely paved over with cement. Not patched up or temporarily fixed, but fully sealed off. No warning, no discussion, just a shiny new slab of gray blocking access to my garage. And as if that wasn't enough, there was a note taped to my front door. It read, "Dear Ms. Harper, your driveway has been repaired per community standards. Please direct any questions to the HOA office." I stood there staring at the note, trying to process what had just happened. Community standards? Seriously. My driveway wasn't even damaged beyond repair. It just needed repaving after the water main incident. But instead of waiting for the proper repairs, the HOA decided to take matters into their own hands. And now, thanks to them, I couldn't park my car in my own garage. At first, I was furious. Who do they think they are? This wasn't just inconvenient. It felt personal. Like they didn't care about me or my needs. They only cared about maintaining their precious aesthetic consistency. I called the HOA office, ready to give them a piece of my mind, but nobody answered. Of course not. They never answer when you actually need them. That night, as I sat on my couch stewing over the situation, an idea began to form in my head. If the HOA wanted to play games, fine. But I wasn't going to roll over and let them win. I'd spent years living under their ridiculous rules, biting my tongue every time they sent me another nitpicky letter or fined me for something trivial. This time, though, things were different. This time, I saw an opportunity. You see, Willow Creek prides itself on being a quiet, family-friendly neighborhood. Kids are everywhere, riding bikes, playing catch, hanging out on sidewalks. But here's the thing. There's nowhere for teenagers to hang out. No skate parks, no basketball courts, nothing. So, while I stared at that freshly poured cement outside my house, inspiration struck. What if I turned my unusable driveway into something useful, something fun? The more I thought about it, the more excited I got. By morning, I had a plan. I called my younger brother Ryan, who's always been the adventurous type, and filled him in. Together, we gathered supplies, ramps, rails, cones, and spray paint. We worked through the night, transforming the sterile slab of cement into a vibrant, makeshift skate park. By sunrise, it was ready. I posted flyers around the neighborhood inviting local teens to come check it out. And just like that, my act of defiance became something bigger than I ever imagined. Little did I know, this was only the beginning. The morning after we finished setting up the skate park, I woke up with a mix of excitement and nerves bubbling in my stomach. What if no one showed up? What if the whole thing was a disaster? But as I stepped outside to check on the setup, I saw something that made my heart leap. 2 teenagers were already there, skateboards in hand, inspecting the ramps and rails like they'd stumbled upon buried treasure. "Is this for real?" one of them asked, looking at me skeptically. He couldn't have been older than 16, his hoodie pulled up over messy hair, sneakers scuffed from years of wear. "As real as it gets," I replied with a grin. "Go ahead. Try it out." They didn't need much convincing. Within minutes, they were flying down the ramps, flipping their boards midair, and laughing like they hadn't a care in the world. It wasn't long before more kids started showing up. First a handful, then a small crowd. By noon, my driveway had transformed into a bustling hub of energy. The sound of wheels grinding against metal filled the air, mixed with cheers and the occasional thud when someone wiped out, which, thankfully, didn't happen too often. Ryan arrived later that afternoon, carrying a cooler full of drinks he'd picked up from the store. "Looks like you've got a hit on your hands," he said, grinning as he watched a group of teens attempt a trick on the half-pipe we'd built. "It's crazy," I admitted, shaking my head in disbelief. I didn't think anyone would actually come. "Oh, they came all right," Ryan said, nodding toward the growing crowd. "And look who else is here." I followed his gaze and spotted Mrs. Henderson from across the street, leaning against her garden fence with a cup of coffee in hand. She gave me a small wave and a thumbs up. Even Mr. Patel, whose backyard bordered mine, was standing on his porch, clapping whenever someone landed a particularly impressive trick. For a moment, it felt like the entire neighborhood had come together, not to complain or enforce rules, but to enjoy themselves. But of course, not everyone was thrilled. By late afternoon, I noticed Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore marching down the cul-de-sac, her face pinched into an expression so sour it could curdle milk. She stopped at the edge of the driveway, hands planted firmly on her hips, and glared at the chaos unfolding before her. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Her eyes darted between the skaters, the graffiti-covered ramps, and me, standing there holding a can of soda like I just committed a crime. "It's a skate park," I said, keeping my tone light despite the knot forming in my chest. "You blocked my driveway, so I figure I'd put it to good use." Her lips pressed into a thin line, and for a second, I thought she might explode. Instead, she took a deep breath and said, "This is unacceptable. These hooligans are disturbing the peace." I raised an eyebrow. "Disturbing the peace? Really? Because last week, your landscaping crew spent 6 hours chainsawing trees right outside my window, and nobody complained about that. Or how about Mr. Henderson revving his lawnmower at 6 a.m. every Saturday? Funny how those things don't count as disturbances." Mrs. Whitmore blinked, clearly caught off guard. She recovered quickly, though, pointing a finger at me. "Mark my words, Miss Harper. This isn't over." "Oh, I'm counting on it," I muttered under my breath as she stormed away. That night, as I sat on my porch watching the last few stragglers pack up their boards, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Sure, the HOA would probably retaliate. They always did. But for now, I'd won. My little act of rebellion had brought joy to a bunch of kids who desperately needed a place to blow off steam. And honestly, seeing their smiles made all the stress worth it. As I headed inside, I glanced back at the skate park one last time. It wasn't perfect. It was loud, chaotic, and messy. But it was alive. And maybe, just maybe, it was exactly what Willow Creek needed. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity and drama. Word about the skate park spread faster than I could have imagined. Kids from all over the neighborhood, and even some from nearby areas, flocked to my driveway. By mid-morning, it was already packed with teenagers showing off tricks, cheering each other on, and blasting music from portable speakers. Parents began stopping by too, dragging lawn chairs and coolers, turning the whole thing into an impromptu block party. It felt like something out of a movie, chaotic, loud, and alive in a way Willow Creek hadn't been before. Of course, the HOA didn't stay quiet for long. Mrs. Whitmore must have called an emergency meeting because the very next day, flyers appeared around the neighborhood. They were printed on glossy paper, complete with the HOA's official logo at the top. "Attention residents. Noise complaints regarding 12 Maple Lane." The flyer went on to list a dozen grievances: loud music, reckless behavior, and even claims that the skate park was attracting undesirable elements. Undesirable. Really? These were kids having fun, not criminals plotting world domination. I crumpled up the flyer and tossed it in the trash, but the complaints kept coming. My inbox flooded with emails from the HOA office, each one more ridiculous than the last. One accused me of violating Section 9.7 of the Community Guidelines. No recreational activities may disrupt the tranquility of the neighborhood. Another fined me $500 for unauthorized modifications to my property. When I ignored the fines, they doubled them. Then came the threats, legal action, eviction notices, you name it. But here's the thing about teenagers. They don't scare easily. In fact, the more pressure the HOA applied, the bigger the crowd grew. Word got out online about the HOA's crusade against the skate park, and suddenly, Willow Creek became infamous. Bloggers wrote scathing articles exposing the HOA's antics. Local news stations sent reporters to interview skaters and parents. Even influencers joined the cause, live streaming stunts while chanting anti-HOA slogans like "Freedom over fences." The backlash hit hard. Mrs. Whitmore tried organizing protests against the skate park, rallying her loyal followers to march down the street with signs reading, "Restore peace," and "Protect our community." But instead of intimidating anyone, her little parade ended up looking sad and pathetic. Most residents stayed far away, refusing to get involved. Meanwhile, the kids kept skating, louder and prouder than ever. One evening, as I sat on my porch watching the chaos unfold, Ryan walked over with a grin. "You know what this reminds me of?" he asked, plopping down beside me. "What?" "A revolution," he said, laughing. "You're basically starting a rebellion." I rolled my eyes but couldn't help smiling. If standing up for yourself counts as a rebellion, then sure. Still, the constant tension wore me down. Every knock at the door made my heart race, convinced it was another warning or fine. Sleep became elusive, replaced by visions of lawsuits and eviction notices. Part of me wondered if I'd gone too far, if maybe I should just give in and let the HOA win. Then came the vandalism. Late one night, someone slashed the taco truck's tires that had been parked across the street since day 2. The owner woke up to find his business ruined, paint smeared across the side with crude messages spray-painted in red. Garbage littered the driveway the next morning. Empty soda cans, candy wrappers, and worse. It was a clear message. Whoever did this wanted us to stop. For a moment, doubt crept in. Maybe the HOA was right. Maybe I'd caused too much trouble. But then I looked around at the kids gathered nearby, practicing tricks and laughing despite the mess. They weren't giving up, so why should I? That afternoon, I rallied the community. Neighbors pitched in to clean up the garbage, repair the taco truck, and add new features to the skate park. We installed floodlights for nighttime sessions and painted motivational quotes along the edges. Keep pushing. Never quit. And this is our space. Mrs. Whitmore wasn't happy about any of it. She showed up later that week, arms crossed, glaring at the newly improved setup. "You're only making things worse," she snapped. I smiled sweetly. "Or maybe we're making things better." Her face turned red, but she didn't argue. Deep down, I think she knew she'd lost control. And that scared her more than anything. The HOA's retaliation didn't stop with fines, threats, or even vandalism. No, they weren't about to give up that easily. If anything, their attacks grew more calculated, more personal. It was as if they saw the skate park not just as a nuisance, but as a direct challenge to their authority, and they couldn't let that stand. One morning, I woke up to find bright orange cones and caution tape surrounding my driveway. A sign planted in the middle read, "Property closed due to safety violations." Apparently, the HOA had hired an inspector who deemed the ramps and rails unsafe. Never mind that dozens of kids had been using them without issue for weeks. According to the HOA, one loose screw or uneven plank was enough to shut everything down. I stared at the barricade in disbelief. This was beyond petty. It was absurd. But I wasn't about to let them win that easily. With Ryan's help, I called around until I found a certified contractor willing to inspect the setup officially. Sure enough, he gave it a clean bill of health, complete with paperwork proving it met all safety standards. Armed with this evidence, I marched straight to the HOA office and demanded they remove the cones, or face legal action themselves. Mrs. Whitmore looked like she'd swallowed something sour when I slapped the inspection report onto her desk. "This changes nothing," she snapped, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. "Oh, it changes plenty," I shot back. "You can keep throwing obstacles in our way, but we're not going anywhere." And we didn't. Within hours, volunteers from the neighborhood dismantled the barricade and tore down the caution tape. The skate park reopened stronger than ever, with new features added thanks to donations pouring in from supporters online. Someone even set up a GoFundMe page, raising thousands of dollars to expand the space and buy better equipment. Willow Creek was becoming a symbol of resistance, and people loved it. But the HOA wasn't done yet. Their next move was subtler, but far more insidious. They started targeting the families of the kids involved, sending letters to parents accusing them of encouraging reckless behavior. One mother told me she received a note claiming her son could be held liable if anyone got hurt on the ramps. Another family found a notice taped to their door warning that their homeowner's insurance might increase due to increased liability risks. It was psychological warfare, plain and simple. For a while, it worked. Attendance at the skate park dipped slightly as some parents pulled their kids out of fear of repercussions. Even a few neighbors who had initially supported us began distancing themselves, worried about drawing the HOA's wrath. I felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. What if I'd pushed too hard? What if I'd put innocent people in harm's way? Then something unexpected happened. The kids fought back. A group of teenagers launched their own counterattack, filming videos explaining the situation and posting them online. In one clip, a 14-year-old girl stood in front of the skate park holding a homemade sign that read, "We just want somewhere to belong." Her voice trembled as she spoke, but her words hit home. "They took away our parks, our rec centers, everything. All we want is a place where we can hang out and feel safe. Is that really so much to ask?" The video went viral overnight. Comments poured in from strangers across the country, offering support and sharing stories of their own battles with overbearing HOAs. Local businesses chipped in, donating food, supplies, and even professional-grade skateboarding gear. Parents who had hesitated before returned, standing shoulder to shoulder with their kids to defend the space. Even Mrs. Dunlop, the quiet widow from the end of the cul-de-sac, joined the cause. She showed up one afternoon carrying trays of cookies and lemonade, handing them out to skaters and spectators alike. "It's about time someone stood up to those bullies," she said with a wink. As the days passed, the HOA's grip on the neighborhood began to slip. For every threat they made, the community rallied harder. For every attempt to shut us down, we found a way to push forward. Slowly but surely, it became clear they couldn't break us. Not anymore. Late one evening, as I watched the floodlights illuminate the skate park and listened to the hum of laughter and music, I realized something important. This wasn't just about a slab of cement anymore. It was about freedom, the kind you can't buy or regulate. And no matter what the HOA threw at us, we weren't giving that up without a fight. The turning point came on a crisp Saturday morning, though I didn't realize it at first. By now, the skate park had become more than just a spot for kids to hang out. It was a symbol of defiance, a place where people could come together and feel like they belonged. The energy in the air was electric, buzzing with laughter, music, and the rhythmic clatter of wheels against ramps. Parents lounged on folding chairs, chatting over coffee while keeping an eye on their kids. Even some of the older neighbors who'd once complained about noise were showing up, drawn by curiosity, or maybe a sense that something special was happening. But Mrs. Whitmore wasn't ready to concede defeat. That morning, she arrived with two men in suits, lawyers, judging by their stern expressions and briefcases. They strode down my driveway like they owned the place, ignoring the skaters and spectators altogether. One of them held up a document, waving it dramatically as cameras from local news crews rolled in the background. "This property is in violation of multiple HOA regulations," he announced loudly, clearly trying to project authority. "We demand immediate compliance or legal action will follow." I crossed my arms, refusing to flinch under their glare. "Funny," I said coolly. "Last time I checked, this is my property, and unless you plan to buy it yourself, you don't get to dictate what happens here." The lawyer faltered for a split second, but quickly recovered, thrusting the paper toward me. "You're jeopardizing the entire community. These activities are unsafe, disruptive, and unacceptable." Before I could respond, a voice cut through the tension. It was Mrs. Dunlop, hobbling forward with her cane. She stopped right in front of the lawyers, squinting up at them like they were insects she'd found crawling across her kitchen counter. "Unsafe," she repeated, her tone sharp enough to slice steel. "Disruptive. Let me tell you something, young man. For years, all we've heard from your little group is rules, rules, rules. Meanwhile, these kids have nowhere else to go. No parks, no rec centers, nothing. All they want is a safe space to be themselves. And instead of helping them, you're trying to take it away." Her words hung in the air, punctuated by murmurs of agreement from the crowd. Someone clapped, then another person, until applause rippled through the gathering. The lawyers shifted uncomfortably, glancing at each other as if unsure how to handle the sudden spotlight. Mrs. Whitmore stepped forward, her face flushed with anger. "This isn't over," she hissed. "Mark my words, Emma Harper, you'll regret this." "Oh, I doubt that," I replied, smiling sweetly. "But thanks for stopping by." As they retreated, defeated and visibly rattled, I felt a surge of hope, not just for myself, but for everyone who'd stood beside me. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It belonged to the entire neighborhood. Together, we'd built something bigger than any rulebook or power-hungry board member. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ryan joined me on the porch. He handed me a soda and nodded toward the skate park, where floodlights bathed the scene in warm golden light. Kids still zipped around, practicing tricks and laughing, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded earlier. "You know," Ryan said thoughtfully, "you've done something pretty amazing here. You didn't just stick it to the HOA. You gave these kids a reason to believe in themselves." I sipped my drink, watching the chaos unfold with a mix of pride and relief. "Yeah, well, turns out standing up for yourself isn't so bad after all." Ryan grinned. Who knew? For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. The battle wasn't over, not completely. There would still be challenges ahead, hurdles to clear, and probably more nonsense from the HOA. But for now, we'd won. We'd taken something broken, a blocked driveway, a stifling set of rules, and turned it into something beautiful. And deep down, I knew one thing for sure. No matter what happened next, the HOA would never take that away from us. Things took an unexpected turn a few days later when Mrs. Dunlop showed up at my door again, this time carrying a dusty cardboard box. She looked around cautiously before stepping inside, as if she was afraid someone might see her. "I've been meaning to give you this," she said, setting the box on my kitchen table. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it, revealing stacks of old papers, meeting minutes, financial reports, and letters stamped with the HOA's official seal. "What is all this?" I asked, flipping through the documents curiously. "Proof," Mrs. Dunlop replied simply. "Proof that the HOA isn't just about rules and regulations. They'd been playing dirty for years." As I sifted through the files, my stomach churned. There were records of embezzled funds, money collected from residents under the guise of maintenance fees that had mysteriously disappeared. Secret agreements allowed certain homeowners to bypass rules, while others were fined excessively for minor infractions. Worst of all, There were emails detailing how the HOA deliberately blocked efforts to build public recreational spaces in the area, fearing they'd attract the wrong crowd. It was clear now, the HOA wasn't just controlling, it was corrupt. "This changes everything," I whispered, staring at the evidence in disbelief. "It does," Mrs. Dunlop agreed, "but you need to decide what to do with it. If you take this to the city council, it'll blow wide open." That night, I couldn't sleep. The weight of what I'd discovered pressed down on me, but so did the responsibility. This wasn't just about me or the skate park anymore. It was about holding the HOA accountable for years of manipulation and greed. By morning, I'd made up my mind. The next day, I marched into the city council office and laid out the documents piece by piece. At first, the officials seemed skeptical, brushing me off like I was overreacting. But as I walked them through the evidence, showing them forged signatures, illegal fines, and secret deals, their expressions shifted from doubt to shock. One council member even muttered, "This is outrageous." Within hours, news broke across town. Reporters swarmed Willow Creek, demanding answers from the HOA. Bloggers dissected every detail, turning the scandal into a national story. Parents who had once hesitated to support us rallied harder than ever, outraged by the corruption they'd unknowingly funded. Even some former HOA members spoke out, admitting they'd suspected foul play, but never had proof until now. Mrs. Whitmore tried to defend herself, of course. She held a press conference outside the HOA office, flanked by her lawyers, insisting the allegations were baseless and politically motivated. But no one bought it, not after photos of luxury vacations paid for with HOA money surfaced online. The final nail in the coffin came when the city froze the HOA's assets pending an investigation. Overnight, the board resigned en masse, leaving behind only rumors of Mrs. Whitmore fleeing town. In the weeks that followed, the neighborhood transformed. With the HOA dismantled, residents came together to form a new community association, one focused on collaboration rather than control. The skate park officially became a public space, funded and maintained by taxpayer dollars. Local businesses donated supplies, and volunteers worked tirelessly to expand it, adding benches, shade structures, and even a small snack stand. For the first time in years, Willow Creek felt alive. Kids still gathered daily at the skate park, but now parents joined in too, hosting barbecues and game nights. Neighbors who had barely spoken before exchanged smiles and hellos. Even Mrs. Dunlop became a regular fixture, bringing homemade cookies and cheering on the skaters. One evening, as I sat on my porch watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink, Ryan plopped down beside me with 2 cups of coffee. "So," he said, grinning, "you ready to run for mayor next?" I laughed, shaking my head. "Not a chance. I've caused enough trouble for one lifetime." But deep down, I knew I'd done something important. I hadn't set out to start a revolution. I just wanted to reclaim a little freedom. Yet somehow, along the way, I'd helped spark something bigger, a reminder that communities are strongest when they work together, not when they're ruled by fear. And as I glanced back at the skate park, glowing under the floodlights, I realized something else. Sometimes, the smallest acts of defiance can lead to the biggest changes. Months have passed since the HOA scandal rocked Willow Creek, and life here feels different. Not perfect, because let's be honest, no neighborhood is, but better, kinder, more connected. The skate park, once a defiant act of rebellion, has become the heart of our community. It's not just for teenagers anymore. Families gather there on weekends, grandparents sit on benches watching their grandkids attempt tricks, and even couples take evening strolls around its perimeter. What started as my personal stand against tyranny has grown into something far greater, a symbol of unity. The transformation didn't happen overnight. After the HOA dissolved, there was a period of uncertainty. Some residents worried about what would replace it. Would chaos reign? Would property values plummet? But instead of falling apart, the neighborhood came together in ways I never expected. A group of volunteers formed a new community association, focused less on enforcing trivial rules and more on fostering relationships. Monthly meetings are now lively discussions where everyone's voice matters, not just those with the loudest opinions or deepest pockets. As for me, I've become an accidental celebrity of sorts. People stop me at the grocery store to thank me for standing up to the HOA. Parents tell me how much their kids love the skate park, while others admit they feel prouder than ever to call Willow Creek home. Even Mrs. Henderson, who used to complain about every little thing, baked me a pie last Christmas. "You did good, Emma," she said with a wink. Coming from her, that meant the world. But the real heroes are the kids. They've taken ownership of the skate park in ways I couldn't have imagined. Every Saturday morning, a crew of teenagers shows up early to sweep debris, tighten bolts, and repaint graffiti when it fades. One boy, Jake, even started a mentorship program, teaching younger kids how to skateboard safely. Watching them care for the space like it's their own fills me with pride and hope. These kids aren't just learning tricks on ramps. They're learning responsibility, teamwork, and resilience. Of course, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. There are still disagreements, missed trash days, and the occasional noise complaint. Though these days, people tend to work things out themselves rather than calling authorities. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder if the HOA will try to make a comeback. But even if they do, I know we're ready. We've proven that when communities unite, they can overcome almost anything. Looking back, I realize this journey taught me something profound. Change doesn't always come from grand gestures or powerful speeches. Sometimes it starts small, with a blocked driveway, a spark of frustration, and a decision to fight back. That one act set off a chain reaction, inspiring others to join in and create something beautiful. Now, as I sit on my porch sipping coffee, I watch the sunrise bathe the skate park in golden light. Laughter echoes through the air, mingling with the rhythmic clatter of wheels against metal. This place isn't just concrete and ramps anymore. It's a testament to what happens when people refuse to stay silent, when they choose courage over compliance and connection over control. If anyone had told me a year ago that my driveway would become the center of a neighborhood revolution, I'd have laughed in their face. Yet here we are, proof that sometimes the smallest acts of defiance can lead to the biggest transformations. And honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. So, to the HOA, wherever you are, thanks for blocking my driveway. You gave me, and this community, something we didn't know we needed.